Good afternoon, Sam.
Hi, Kate. How are you today?
Really well. I'm excited to talk about this topic today that we've intuitively decided is going to be all about outsourcing.
Yes. I was just saying to you, Kate, that I feel like so many business owners are walking around with this invisible help sign
hmm
because doing business on your own is a lot of work. And I know you've written a brilliant article about the hats that business owners wear.
hmm Yeah. Yep. We have to wear a lot of different hats, and the three specifically that Michael Gerber talks about in his book, The E-Myth, which is the technician, the craft of what we do, which ideally we'd be doing all day, every day, without worrying about the other two hats, which are
Yes.
entrepreneurship, so business development, bringing the work in, building strategic partnerships, networking, all of the stuff that is business development, bringing in the leads, the marketing. And then you've got the manager hat, just managing the day to day of the business, the planning, the goal setting, the measuring, the finances, the tracking that things are going as they should, all of that good stuff. And yeah, you and I were talking about how the number one most precious commodity for any woman in business is time.
Absolutely. There
And
just doesn't ever seem to be enough of it, does there?
mm, and so, what are those practical things that we can do to win ourselves some time? And you and I were talking about that before we started recording today, because I asked you how your new VA was going, and we got onto that conversation. Because I've been seeing
Yeah.
your social media posts coming through, and they're good.
Yes. And Kate, I think the important thing here is that, you and I have both gone through a few VOs over
hmm
the years, haven't we?
Yep.
Because not all VAs are created equal. And
Mm.
I think when you're searching for a VA, you have to be really cognizant of the skills and what they're going to be able to do. When they say they can post to social media, there's a difference between posting to social media, but you have to come up with the captions and the graphics, and they're just literally picking up what you give them and scheduling or posting, versus somebody who is going to take care of all of that for you. And
Mm.
this is where you have to be really clear about what you want them to do
Mm.
and what their capabilities are.
That's right. Yeah. And I know that we all get excited at the concept of a $10 an hour Filipino virtual assistant or any virtual assistant at that price. But like you were saying before we started today, you get what you pay for. And sometimes
Mm.
it's worth investing the extra money to get the value that you need in terms of actually creating that time freedom. Because in my current situation with my virtual assistant, I am having to do most of the work, which is not, it's, it, that's not the point of it, right? They're supposed to take the burden of
Mm.
that off you and give you that time freedom, which is what you've now got with your VA.
Absolutely, yes. And as I said to you, I'm paying more for her. However, I'm not paying for 40 hours a week. She's
Mm,
very skilled at what she does and she knows what she's doing. So
mm,
what she's doing in the hours per week that she works for me is a lot. And in actual fact, I couldn't do it myself in that kind of time because that's not my area of expertise. And
mm.
I'm already busy. So social media for me was the afterthought that I might do after the kids went to bed and things like that. And it was inconsistent. And that's not the way to build any kind of social media following, or certainly how to get any clients through social media, is being random about your posting.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, as we always say, consistency is key. Because it sends a message about
Yeah.
who you are as a business owner, and people need to know that they can rely on you if you're a service provider. So when they see that you're constantly showing up with good content, it builds that trust and credibility. And so, how do you achieve that consistency as a business owner? And I know that's something I've always struggled with, and I've had periods where I'm really consistent, and other periods where it falls in a heap because the time burden just becomes too much. in trying to keep up that level of consistency. But what I've realised is I haven't had the right support. There's been too much time burden for me to create the content. Whereas what you're saying that you've managed to do, you've found this girl on Upwork,
I have,
upwork.com,
yes.
where we've also found the producer for this show, which is great. So it is a great resource for anyone wanting to find virtual assistants. You can find anything and everything you want on there. And I think the review system is what's so helpful, isn't it? That you
It
can
is.
see what other people are saying about their services and, their comments about working with them. So you found this girl on Upwork and
I
then...
did.
Mm,
Yeah, and the thing I love about Upwork and Fiverr as well, I've used Fiverr as well, but what I like about both of those platforms, and there are others like freelancers too, that's another one I know off the top of my head. What I love about them is that you start with just one project. So you
mm,
get to try, it's not try before you buy because you're paying them for the work, but you get to do a one-off project with them. And that's how you can really see how well you communicate, what their standard of work is, what their capabilities are, all of those sorts of things before you embark on any kind of ongoing relationship with them.
mm. Yes.
That's where I've been quite strategic in doing that after a few bad experiences of diving in with a VA that then didn't work out. I've
Mm,
done this where I've experimented and can you just do this piece of work for me and see how that goes? And
mm,
now I've entered into this ongoing work with this VA and she's amazing. And
mm,
the best thing about working with her is that I don't have to second guess anything. She
mm.
has totally taken on the job and I don't have to worry about things like, are things going out on time? And, I've got the analytics, I see that, but I don't have to look over her shoulder. Whereas if I was paying less for someone who wasn't as skilled, I would have to do that. And that's not really giving anybody else ownership and freeing up my time if I have to do that.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah. The whole point is to be able to have that level of trust where you don't have to check their work, where you can trust that it's going out on time and of a good quality. And that's the gold when you can get to that point where you are now. I mean, the time freedom that gives you is just so worth the money, isn't it?
It is,
Yeah.
absolutely. And like I say, when you pay an expert, you might feel a little bit of that chest tightening and
Mm,
gulping when you see what you need to pay,
mm.
but the amount of hours you're hiring them for is a lot less.
Yeah. And she's bringing in the leads for you, which is the whole point, isn't it? So if you're actually seeing
It
results,
is.
and that's your lead generation. So that's the price you're paying for ongoing, consistent lead generation, which is how you run your business. So it's, I mean, don't we often work off the percentage, like 10% of your revenue should be going to lead generation and not ideally not more. And so if you're in that ballpark, then it's a win-win. I mean, you're investing that money but not your time. So you're able to, you're able to win back that time where you can be serving your clients really well or creating programs or other stuff that you need to, growing your business, working on your business instead of getting caught in the rut of social media where so many business owners get stuck. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Too many people think that social media is going to be their lifeline
Mm.
to wealth and success.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that you invest a lot of time and energy into social media. Not everybody gets results
Yeah.
doing that because there are so many things you've got to get right in order to see results.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that when you start to get busy because you're getting results from your social media, what happens? Your time is now spent with clients and customers.
Generating
And
revenue.
all of a sudden, the consistency is gone in your social media because you don't
Yeah.
have time to do it anymore because you're so busy with customers. But
Exactly.
your pipeline is going to dry up.
Mm. Yeah. And that is exactly, the issue that I see most people failing with. And to be honest, I struggle with it because I haven't, as I was saying, have had a virtual assistant who has been really good over the years, but it's too time intensive for me what I have to prepare. yeah, what you were saying, Sam, your girl, you just create the blog in a Google Doc and she loads it into your site. She puts the images
Mhm.
in, she puts the captions, the hashtags. That's the time consuming part. Whereas up until now, I've been giving my virtual assistant the blog that's already embedded in my website with the images. I've been giving her all the captions, all the graphics, and all she has to do is schedule them, which is the easy part, but it's the bit I just do not have time for. But it's not offloading the necessary bits that I need to. So I've fallen off the wagon, to be completely honest, and I'm back in
Mm.
that that hamster wheel where, like you say, you're not being consistent enough on social media, so the pipeline, starts to thin out, and then you're back in that trap. So hearing your success with hiring this girl has given me hope. That I think what it is I need, and it's that book, isn't it, Who Not How. I'm not sure who wrote it,
Yes.
but yeah, when you get stuck, when you're falling in a rut, when you're procrastinating, the question to ask yourself is, who can help me get out of this, not how do I get out of it? So I need a
Mm.
virtual assistant at this point that can totally take that time burden off me. So who can, like you, I just give them the content for the blog and they do everything they need to do with that. And that keeps my socials, my content marketing going for a good 2 weeks and the leads coming in. And if I have to pay double or three times the hourly rate for that service, I'm happy to pay for it.
Yes. Well, you've got to think about what the value of your time is.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm. That's
Because
exactly.
instead of spending 10 hours a week on that, imagine if you were coaching clients for 10 hours a week,
Yeah. And so, Sam, you were saying that you're paying your girl 40 US an hour.
20 US an hour.
Oh, 20 US an hour. All right. So that's about
Yes.
40 Australian dollars, roughly, at this time.
Yeah, it depends on the exchange rate, but yes.
Yeah. Yeah, which is about double what I'm paying. So, and exactly, what's your hourly rate? What are you charging out, yourself to your clients? And obviously, our rate is much higher than that. So,
It
um,
is.
yeah, anything you can outsource that's cheaper than your hourly rate, you need to be doing it because your time is worth what it's worth. And you shouldn't be spending your time on 20 US dollars an hour activities when you can charge yourself out at 200, 300 and upwards per hour, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
I
Sam,
think,
tell us how you did that. How did you get to the point, for all those women out there who I know struggle with outsourcing? What did you do? Because you said you've had, like all of us, bad experiences with VAs where it hasn't gone well. Because I know in the past you've been excited
yeah.
about taking someone on and then it hasn't worked for whatever reason. So tell us a bit more about why that didn't work back then and what have you done differently this time?
Yeah. So when I first started out with VAs, the first few times I had a VA actually was through an agency. So
Mm,
agencies are really good for cutting out the work at the beginning of finding people and communicating with you about what it is you want them to do. The problem with agencies is that they are low rate VAs. So their skill set isn't as high as somebody who is freelancing.
mm,
So the challenges I had were much like you're saying, Kate, where and I am using social media management as a good benchmark, but
mm,
I was still having to do a lot of the work to get it organized. And then, there were a few problems with English being second language for a few of the
mm,
VAs. So then having to correct, the minor spelling mistakes that they make just because of the language barrier. So that was a real challenge.
mm.
When they were relying on me to do all of the work first, as is your experience, when you're busy and you don't have time, it means you've got a VA that's sitting there waiting for you.
Exactly.
And that's not the situation you want to be in at all. So my feeling was that I wasn't getting the support that I needed. So
Mm,
I did keep trying. And
mm,
that's the thing. I didn't give up on VAs because I know there's some fabulous VAs out there.
mm,
Uh, when I moved, I actually tried to find a local VA, somebody that would be a you know physical that I could meet and have coffee with and talk through things. And I actually couldn't find any in my area. And for a moment there, I was like, oh, maybe I need to open a VA school because there are no VAs out here in the country.
Mhm.
So it was back to Fiverr and Upwork and those places to try and find someone all over again.
Mhm.
And I did try a few. I had some graphics projects that I got people to work on.
Mm.
And, you know, that was a bit of a process to go through finding people that would really tune into, you know, the brand guide that I gave them and the brand voice that I described.
Mm.
But in the end, I had to sort of separate my idea of the, you know, the magical $5 VA, $5 an hour VA that was going to work wonders. I had to really separate myself from that idea
Mhm.
and shell out a little bit more money
Yeah. Yeah.
and find someone that was better.
Yeah. And yeah, that time freedom is worth it, isn't it? Just and you
Yes.
and I were saying it's like anything else in your business that you happily pay for in your life. So, for example, cleaning, I know, is a big sticking point for a lot of business owners who work from home because, again, going back to the women growing businesses theme, there's a lot of assumptions from the partners quite often that because you're at home, you can easily do the cleaning. And I know a lot of my clients have fallen into that trap. And I did initially way back when I started my business too. You know, nearly 10 years ago now, my husband would say, well, you're at home, can't you do it? He couldn't see the value of me. Like for that 3 or 4 hours a week, you know, I said to him, imagine what I could get done in that 3 or 4 hours a week, you know, and it's about valuing yourself enough to pay for that. But once you have the cleaner that comes and takes that load off you and you can spend that 3 or 4 hours working on your business, that's the baseline minimum, isn't it, that every business owner should be doing. And if you're struggling with guilt with that, I know a lot of women deal with it, especially in the startup phase before you're generating a lot of revenue. The partner's usually saying, well, you're not making money yet, so let's wait until you're making money so that then we can spend it on cleaning. But that's the chicken and egg scenario. You can't make the money unless you have time to make the money.
Exactly. And I think that this is leading on from what we were talking about last episode, Kate, talking about the expected timeline it's going to take for you to generate profit.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have 50 other things to do that aren't your business, that timeline is just extending further and further out.
That's right, yeah. So the key point being, if you're serious about getting to profit quickly, both you and your partner have to be on the same page that we need to free up your time as much as possible to spend every hour of the week that you can on revenue generating activities, right? Or working on the business to be able to produce revenue. And that means getting a cleaner. It means outsourcing the business admin task. It means outsourcing social media and other, time consuming things in your business. And if you can both, and that's a difficult concept for a lot of partners to wrap their head around, I know, because being employees, for the majority of clients that I've worked with, the husbands are in an employee situation and don't really understand that need to invest in your business for the first 1, 2, 3 years, depending on how much time you have to build the business.
That's right. That's
And
right.
like you said, the length of that time to get to profit absolutely depends on how much time you can dedicate to the business.
Yes. And Kate, the other thing I know for me personally, and this is absolutely nothing against the women that are really good at doing the housework and doing the cooking, that is not where I shine. And ask any of my kids and my husband, that's not where I shine at all. But I've had days when I didn't have a cleaner. I had days where I could just cry when I'm, instead of working on my business, I'm picking up dirty dishes and dirty socks and cleaning up and packing up after everybody else after they've left the house. And the part that upset me about all of that was that I had such a passion for my business, and I spent all that time educating myself and investing my time into something, and here I am picking up dirty socks off the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, I'm like, what is going on here? I've tried so hard to do something and to help people, and what am I doing here?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So getting a cleaner was that was a real must for me.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
know it's a personal choice for a lot of people, but I have a real, probably because I have been at home for so many years
Mm.
raising children and trying to, you know, being at home with the kids and everything is great. And I'd love to hear about your thoughts on this, Kate. But for me, there came a point where I'm like, I've got to get out of the house
Mm.
because I feel like my brain is dying inside, because as much as I love these human beings I've brought into the world, I need adult communication and I need to do adult things. Like,
Mm.
that part of me felt like it was dying because I
Mm.
wasn't feeding it. And
Absolutely.
doing the housework was a part of that. It was killing my soul. I don't mind doing housework when it's not my primary function.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
If I get to spend my day on my passion, I don't mind doing all that stuff, and but for me, when that's all there was for me, I was like, oh, this is not
Mm.
why I'm here on this
Yeah.
earth.
Yeah, absolutely. I so remember that feeling too. I lasted probably 6 months at home with our newborn Jack, and I just needed to get the intellectual stimulation again. And that's when I went and retrained, and that was when I started my own business back in 2012.
Mm.
I think so many women can relate to that absolute. And I think this is the thing when we've been grown. Yeah, we talked about that quote in the last session about there's a whole generation of women who have been brought up with gender stereotypical roles, but they've been empowered to be independent, and that's where we're at. So while we, were brought up in families, what are we, Gen X? I think our generation mostly was brought up in gender stereotypical roles. So the man being the breadwinner, the woman, keeping the household afloat. That's changed so much over the years, but that was our role modeling that we saw growing up. And yet at the same time we were empowered to be independent and get an education. And so that's a real internal struggle. But the fact that we've been empowered to be independent and to get an education means that if we are in a purely domestic situation, our soul literally dies, because we know that we're capable of more and we need more, because that's how we've been trained. It's how we've been brought up to study, to think, to be, to be busy professionally.
Mm. And it's a silent killer, Kate. I know I certainly didn't say anything to anybody, because we're supposed to be, we go into motherhood and we love our children, but to admit that staying at home with your kids doesn't feel like enough, that's a really hard thing to say.
Yeah. And of course, there are women for whom it is enough. And I've always admired them, because I've always wondered how simple it would be if I could just be happy, being the mother to my kids, and that being enough, because that would make life so much easier.
It would. But now, even sitting here thinking about this now, I'm thinking, I wonder how many of the women that I used to see at school pickups and drop-offs and things like that, like me, that had one in a pram and one toddler and one's in prep, and the women that I used to look at and think, wow, like, they've got it together. Their kids always look amazing. They're the ones with the fantastic lunch boxes, and I really admired the way they did it all, and they seemed to be loving it. But I wonder how many of them felt the way I did. And we never said anything. We're just there with smiles on our faces saying everything's fabulous. And it doesn't have anything to do with how we feel about our children. It's about how we feel about our contribution to the larger world.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, fascinating, isn't it? It's, yeah.
Mm.
And so back on the topic of, I mean, we could just talk about that all day because it's such a big thing in our
Yes.
reality. And yeah, but back to the topic of time freedom and how, like, what are some of the successful ways you and I have managed to do that? I mean, um, one of the, I mean, I guess we could, continue on the theme of outsourcing. And I know so many women are interested in how do you do that well. So it sounds like from your experience with your Thai VA, who you're paying 20 US an hour, but she's doing all of it for you. So you give her the content,
Yes.
she's doing the captions, the scheduling, and it looks good. I've seen your stuff come out. And when you see your stuff come out and it's high quality, think, go Sam. It is, it's having an impact. That consistency works in terms of building your online visibility and your reputation and your credibility. So it's absolutely worth investment. And it sounds like you gave her a small task to start with, and it was a discrete package of work you gave her, and you tested her out to see how that would go.
Yes, yes. And we have built it from there. She
Mm.
was very upfront about, I can do A, B, and C for you. But, a lot of people had said that to me before. So I didn't dive right in, and it was kind of it started out with that single task, and then we discussed working on an ongoing basis after we'd had some initial success. And then the tasks that she undertook just grew. And
Mm.
she still offers to do more. She has more
Wow.
capability in her.
That's amazing. That initiative is worth gold, isn't it?
It is. It is
Rather than them
absolutely.
sitting and waiting to be told or given the task or be told what to do, if they start suggesting, hey, we could do this, this, and this, that is just so worth the money.
Absolutely. She's sitting in that world of social media marketing and strategy. That's her world all day, every day.
Mm.
And so why wouldn't I listen to what she's got to say?
Mm. So that's what you were saying is the difference between paying for an expert, paying $20 US an hour for an expert versus paying $10 an hour for a virtual assistant who is at the basic level. Most VAs need very clear task lists and very clear descriptions and guidelines and boundaries, and they wait for us to tell them what to do. That's the typical way it goes, which is fabulous when you're first starting out and you can give someone some tasks and they go off and do them for you at $10 an hour. That's great. But in terms of ongoing longevity of business and actual time freedom in your business, that doesn't work long term. You need a
No, it
virtual,
doesn't.
yeah, you need to have built that trust. You need to be able to rely on their skills to be taking initiative and dragging you along. I always think it as like a VA is either pulling you along or they're kind of one step behind you and they're waiting for you to keep moving forward, And your VA is pulling you along, and that's where you need to be.
Yes, most definitely. Look, Kate, I do have another VA who's, you know, she is wonderful, but I have learned the difference
Mm.
between those two. And so my other VA is very much task orientated. It's like,
Mm.
do this task next, do this task, and things like that. And that requires more involvement from me on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But it's getting rid of those elementary tasks.
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with them,
Yes. Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
good. But
Yeah.
that has
And
also come from working really hard to get a lot of clarity around what it is that I need to do versus what it is that everybody else seems to be doing that maybe I should be doing.
mm,
It's really, I've stripped back a lot of things in my business because we tend to collect tasks that are really unnecessary. I think,
true.
and that's how we overburden our time.
Hmm. Yeah. So tell us a bit more about that. What are some of the unnecessary tasks that you've collected?
Oh gosh, look, even down to service offerings, Kate. That, and it is a bit of mindset work to go through because starting out coaching, we were both coaching together, and
Mm.
we were very generalist coaches,
Mm-hmm.
weren't we? Really, we
Yeah.
we were fixing all the things for the entire entrepreneurial journey.
Yes.
That's a big load to carry.
Yeah.
So I know for my business, I'm like, I'm not necessarily comfortable doing that, working in all areas of business. I don't even enjoy all areas of business. There are some
Mm.
things that I just don't want to work with. So I've really focused down to, and it's been work, it's been mindset work to lose some of the programs and decide
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not going to teach people and coach people in certain areas anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So shedding that stuff as well and just kind of narrowing down to a single focus, that's been
Mm.
very, very beneficial.
Yeah.
I think we start when we start out in business and we're so desperate to get to that point of profit, we start collecting the add-ons. We start, if I
Mm.
just bolt this on piece on here and offer that to people, I'll get
Mm.
more business. And then it's
Yeah.
like, but now I've got to add this piece as well. And before you know it, there's too much to be looking after.
That's right. Yeah. So it's interesting, isn't it? That takes time to get to that level of clarity about what you do and don't want to
Mm.
offer and to really home it down. So tell us, what are some of the things you've let go of then?
Oh gosh. For now, I have let go of marketing
Hmm.
and the financial side of things.
Right. So you're not advising people on marketing or finances, just the business growth systems automation. Is that right?
Yes, yes. My
Mm.
theory is, and those are really important elements of a long-term strategy that I have.
Hmm.
But my plan is at the moment is this topic in particular. Thanks, Kate, for this. Um, the biggest challenge we have is having enough time to do things.
Hmm.
And a lot of businesses start out not having the money to do things.
Hmm.
So I'm really focused on what I love, which is the technology side of things.
Yes, it's your genius.
So
Yeah.
the first thing I'm doing is helping women to adopt technologies that are going to buy them back the time they need to then start working on the strategy behind their marketing and how to make
Mm.
more money and all of that sort of stuff. But until they've got time to do it, it's all of this stuff we've been talking about. It's the inconsistency and all of that that sees them not get where they want to go.
That's perfect and so on topic. So
Mm.
tell us how
I know.
you
I was like, are you doing me a favor today talking about this or what?
okay, but I mean, everyone wants to know about it. So, um, yeah, I mean, we all need any tips, tricks up our sleeve to create more time in our day. So tell us a bit more about what you, as first point of call when you're working with a business, what are the things you look at in terms of automating or using technology to do instead of human?
If it's an established business, the first thing we have to do is an audit of all of the things that people are paying money for.
Mm, yep.
Because quite often business owners, it's the shiny object syndrome. It's the
Yeah.
next brightest thing that's going to save them all this time in their business. But quite often people don't adopt enough of the functionality in any of these tools and apps to really see the benefits of it because they
Exactly.
don't have the time to invest in learning how to do it.
So you end up with 10 different subscriptions but you're not getting maximum value out of any of them, and you could potentially be done with just one, two, or three of them.
Yeah, yeah. Quite often you could be ditching 7 of those subscriptions and
Yeah.
just, going on to a paid plan or increasing your paid plan to get the functionality that you need, and
Mm,
that's just going to open everything up for you.
that's such a good point. Yeah, and I know that you and I are continuously going through that process, aren't we, of finding we've tried different systems and then we end up ditching them because
Mm.
we're not getting value for money. And so what are your favorite tools and technologies for running your business?
So I have returned to my original CRM, and I've gone to back to Active Campaign.
Oh, yeah,
So
love it.
I've flirted with quite a few different ones, but I just love what it can do.
Yeah.
I love all of the functionality, and I love diving into all the automations, and just there's so much potential in there. So
Hmm.
that's my favorite CRM
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
far.
It's my favorite too. I help a lot of clients. That's the one I recommend to clients if I'm setting it up for them. And you know, the automated nurture sequences, and I do love
Yeah.
Active Campaign. Very intuitive. Yeah. I did
Yes.
end up stepping over to another CRM because of the lead generation and lead tracking. That's the part that I either didn't know how to do it in Active Campaign, or,
Mm.
but yeah, being able to bring the leads in via your forms on your websites and track where those leads are and convert them, or at least figure out whether they're going to proceed or not. Like, that was the part that I was
Mm.
missing. Have you found a way to get around that in Active Campaign?
Yeah, well, but were you using deals in Active Campaign?
I don't think so.
Okay, so maybe that they didn't have that part online yet,
Mhm.
but there are deals in Active Campaign, so you can create sales pipelines and you can see where people are on their customer journey, what stage they're at, and
Brilliant.
really design automations and everything around that pipeline. So
Mhm.
this is where the software gets really fun.
Yeah.
It is a learning curve, and you do have to put a lot of thought into your customer journey and your touch points and all of that sort of stuff.
Mm.
And it's not so good in Australia for the SMS marketing in Active Campaign. I know that there are better alternatives,
Mhm.
but it does have that element. It's just a little bit costly, so I don't use that part of it
Mm.
for
Right. Yeah.
SMS marketing, which it kind of makes me sad because SMS marketing is really effective.
Yeah, I do use it for when someone applies for, fills in one of my forms online, they get a text message saying thanks, and then they get an email as well. And so that, yeah, I think text messages these days are the most direct means of reaching out to someone, aren't they?
Definitely, yes. I was using another platform that had unlimited SMS marketing, so I was using it quite a bit on that platform, but that platform also costs a lot more money. So,
Yeah, gosh. And this is where I think a lot of business owners just get into overwhelm, and it's like, oh, too many
mm,
choices, too many different functionalities. And so, I mean, my advice is always just start simple, get a couple of processes up and running well, and then build out from there. But at least have an automated. It has to be an automated process for tracking clients. If they submit a form, there has to be automated responses that go out. They shouldn't be waiting on you to get
mm,
back to them. That's a bare minimum, isn't it? And inviting them onto a call or whatever your action is, automating that entire process. And then, as a minimum, having a way to capture leads on your website. If they're not ready to reach out for that discovery call yet or have a chat, but they're still interested and they want to see what you're about, at least having something you can offer them that gets them onto your database, and then nurturing them into along the customer journey. Like, I always, those are the sort of the two minimum requirements I see businesses.
yes.
Mm,
Yeah, and even, for re-engagement as well, Kate, sometimes I've had clients recently re-engage with me where they were working with me a couple of years ago, and they've stuck with me and they've been on my email list and they've come back to work with me again, which is really
uh,
nice.
yeah,
But that
and
wouldn't happen if I didn't have CRM doing some work for me in the background to
mhm,
maintain the communication lines.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and the old cliche, the gold is in your list. It's true because they're people that
Yep.
have been interested in your work. They've worked with you before, and then it's a timing thing. And when they continue to see the value you're giving, they reach out again when they're ready. So yeah, having that email list is just an absolute critical asset in your business, isn't it? And having strategies to continuously build that. And you're doing that now with your social media marketing that your VA is doing for you. I'm doing it
Definitely.
sporadically. Um,
No,
yeah, and I mean,
no, I'm there. I'm there every day now. So
what's that?
on social media, I'm there every day.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's brilliant. And yeah, and I think we all go through phases where I've actually, because I stepped over to a new CRM, been rebuilding that, been rebuilding the nurture funnels and rebuilding the lead magnets and putting a lot of time and effort into that. And then you find other activities slipping, don't you? And so
Mm.
not beating yourself up because you've got to still serve your clients at the same time and be a mother. And so
Yes,
it's
yes,
it's a lot, but I think the message is always how do you get back on the horse as quickly as possible. So who do you need to help you out? How do you so in my case, I really need to get onto the social media marketing quickly because I need someone like your girl who can take that burden off me. And all I need to focus on as a business owner is creating that piece of content, the blog and the video, for example, and then someone else takes that and runs with it. And rather than relying on me to create the content to put out.
yes.
Yeah, but yeah,
Let me
it's
let me ask you this question, Kate, because you've been blogging for a long time.
mm,
One of my favorite tech tools, which is not really saving me any time because, Chat GPT is like my new best friend in the evening when everyone's gone to bed because I
mhm.
sit there and brainstorm. But I talk to it like it's a person. I'm so polite and I
Yes,
really am. Because when Chat GPT, it's an algorithm. When it gets something wrong, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry about that. Here's the new idea, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, that's okay. And it's like I'm online chatting to a person. Are you using AI to help you with any parts of your business?
oh yes, I absolutely am. Yeah. So I've stepped over to Google Bard instead of ChatGPT now.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's way better if you don't mind me saying so.
Oh,
um,
I might have to leave my Chat GPT
no,
nighttime friend and try
Chat
Google Bard.
GPT.
Yes, I've heard good things.
Are you on the paid version of ChatGPT?
No, I'm not. No,
Yeah. So the limitation there is that it's only content up to 2021.
that's right.
Yeah. And so I do a lot of marketing work for clients who need current information, and Google Bard is fantastic for that. So um, I also find it's a bit more clever in how it responds to certain things. So
Mm.
just as an example, I'm running a workshop teaching people about the green brain sandwich in marketing and how important that is.
Yes.
And yeah, and so I asked ChatGPT, what is it? Just asking it what is a green brain sandwich in the context of marketing, and it came back and saying, "I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that term. I don't have any information," which I thought was really interesting. But when I
Mm.
asked the same question of Google Bard, it came back saying, "Green brain sandwich is how you create engaging, captivating marketing that converts, and it consists of these three layers. And here's an example." And I just thought, wow, that's amazing. Um, so the difference between the two was quite remarkable. One was all over it; the other one had no idea. So
Wow. That
yeah,
oh, I feel sad for ChatGPT now. I was like, oh,
yeah.
you're going to be the dumb friend now.
All the
Yeah,
right.
look, I I use it for brainstorming.
Mm,
As far as writing blogs are concerned, I don't use it for that. I use it to help me flesh out ideas
yes, yeah,
because you when you're using the AI tools, you go through the process of improving the questions that you ask it in order
yeah,
to improve the quality of your answers.
yes.
That is my brainstorming process. because I'm like, I'm not asking the right questions here. What am I trying to get to? And sometimes I don't know myself until I get the feedback from the
Mm.
algorithm. But I'm very careful to not, you certainly don't pick up what the AI gives you and plonk that
No.
into, not from ChatGPT because it is old data. You don't
Yeah.
plonk that onto your website and say that's the blog and it's all true and factual, because we all know, and they're very open about the fact that, you've got to fact check and you've got to make sure that all these details are correct before you put that information out into the world. Would you
Yeah.
say the same is true of Google Bard?
Yeah, I mean they're curation tools, aren't they? They're curating stuff from the
Mm.
internet and putting it in a digestible, understandable format. So um, whatever's out on the internet, they're going to use as long as there's enough
Yeah.
data, and I know these tools are built on massive, massive data sets. So
Yeah.
generally they are factually correct because even while there's misinformation out there on the internet, the majority of stuff is factual. So I think Google and ChatGPT are just curating what's out there. But funnily enough, just wrote a blog about this last week about the pros and cons of AI in marketing, and it's really good. It overcomes the blank page syndrome, so it gets you away from
Yes.
procrastination. Yeah, so you start with something, but it'll be generic. And people, because of tools like ChatGPT and Google Bard, people don't want generic content anymore. It's boring.
No.
It's what they want is your critical thought. They want your opinion. They want to know like what you think about something. So that's where I think we as business owners have to start really putting our opinions and our critical thought out there, because there is so much generic information. Do you know what I mean?
I do, absolutely, Kate, because, I started blogging a lot more recently than you did, and my content was all how to do
Mm,
this, how to do this. It never got any traction. And I was actually listening to a podcast of a fabulous, fabulous marketer. And they spoke about content, and they said, why do people put out how to content? Because that is the stuff people can just go and Google. And I sat there and I was like, oh my
mm,
goodness, it's me. I'm putting out information that anybody can jump on Google and find out for themselves. It
mm-hmm,
really made me switch up what I was writing,
mm. In what way?
because like you said, I started then writing, okay, what's my experience and what's my opinion on everything, and
Mm,
what are the stories behind what goes on.
yes, the stories. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
people want the stories. And in
Mm,
reality, when you think about how people learned, years and years ago, sitting around a campfire exchanging stories, that's how we
mhm,
learned everything.
mhm.
I don't know why we've lost so much of that storytelling capability as a tool to teach people how to do things.
Exactly.
We've
Yeah.
gone so instructional, haven't we?
Yeah, but that's a really good point to finish on. I think it's the human element that we need to express now in all of our content. It's those stories, it's the opinions, it's the critical thought, which are the things that AI are not capable of yet. Uh,
No.
and I say yet because they might be at some point, but um, yeah, and so it's absolutely true what you're saying. We've all gotten into this rut of how to, but that is so irrelevant now because anyone can how to on YouTube, on all these AI tools. And so, yeah, the only way to stand out now in the world of AI, I think, in marketing and content is to share human experiences and thoughts and opinions. Yeah. So,
Yes, that's the only true original content, isn't it?
mm. And in terms of relating that back to the topic of time freedom, I have found these AI tools to save huge amounts of time.
Oh, they have saved me so much time in creating content because, like I said before, I brainstorm the idea with AI, to get to the crux of what it is that I want to say, and then I can go about writing it. Because
Mm.
before, I was using the experience of writing to figure out what it was I wanted to say. And that took me a long time. I remember asking you once how long it took you to write a blog, and you said,
Oh.
like half a day and it's done. And I was like, I could spend all day and I still haven't got a great blog written.
But even half a day now seems ridiculous.
Oh, I know.
Because you can
I
get it
know.
done
I
in less than
know.
an hour with AI.
Yes, that's how fast it is now, for sure.
Mm.
Yeah, because I weave all of that content into my own story, and it's just
Mm.
so much faster.
Mm. That's so cool. I think we might need to do a session at one time on how we do that, because people would love to know, how do you write a blog quickly? I'm sure for those who haven't dabbled in it,
Yes.
while
Yeah.
still keeping it engaging and captivating, something that people actually want to read, as opposed to being generic info on the web. Mm.
Mm,
But we have run out
definitely.
of time.
Yes.
And so, yeah, another of my favorite tools before we wrap up is any system that allows you to manage all your payments and, on the finance side of things. I know you stepped away from Practice Ignition, Sam, but
I
um,
did. I did.
yeah, I still use it on the lowest tier. But in terms of having a cash flow forecast and automatic payment plans for clients that I never have to worry about, if a client payment defaults, it follows it up for me, and things
Mm,
like any sort of any of those tools that you can implement that save you time around payments or tracing payments, or it's another important one.
definitely.
And what do you use now?
So most of my financial activity is traveling through Stripe,
Yeah, and for your
because
proposal
it integrates
management.
with a lot of the things that I use. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's another whole conversation, isn't it? Integrating
yeah,
financial systems and payment plans and so on. But that is a
yes,
massive time consuming area that we could touch on at another point.
definitely.
Mm. Well, thank you, Sam. Hopefully, this has been helpful to ladies wanting to win back some more time in their business through outsourcing and automating and AI. And so,
Yes, big topics, but they're a must for business owners these days, all of that.
yeah, absolutely critical. And yeah, if you need help, reach out. Sam's a guru in automation and all things winning back time. And we look forward to speaking to you in another episode soon.